When your partner starts acting differently, do you actually know what they are trying to say? Yes, it seems like stress. It seems like a phase. It seems like the kind of thing every relationship goes through at some point, and in a few weeks, everything will go back to normal. But here's the thing. Behind that shift in behavior, there is something deeper that most people in relationships completely miss. What is happening is not just tiredness, and it is not just a busy season at work. It is one of the most emotionally loaded things a partner can do. And if you misunderstand it, which most people do, you could be watching a slow goodbye and calling it a rough patch. We will talk about what it means when this behavior suddenly reverses at the end of the video. What it means when a partner who has been pulling away suddenly becomes warm again, attentive again, and almost perfect again. It is something most people wish they had understood before it was too late. But first, let us start with what emotional checking out actually looks like beneath the surface. So why does a partner emotionally check out in the first place? Most people assume it is simple. They are tired. They are stressed about money or work or family. They just need some space. And once things calm down, they will come back. End of story. But here's the thing. If tiredness was all it was, they would not be checking their phone more than they check in with you. If stress were the full explanation, they would not stop asking about your day when they used to ask every single evening. If it were just a phase, the distance would feel temporary. Instead, it feels like something has quietly shifted in a way that neither of you has named out loud yet. So why does it happen specifically with you in moments that used to feel close? Because something in the emotional fabric of the relationship has signaled to your partner that it is no longer safe to stay fully open. John Gottman spent decades studying couples and found that relationships live and die on what he called emotional bids. These are small, everyday moments when a partner reaches toward you for connection, a joke, a question, a touch on the shoulder. When those bids are repeatedly missed or ignored, not always on purpose, the partner who keeps reaching eventually stops. Checking out is not an explosion. It is the quiet that follows too many unanswered bids. And by the way, if your partner used to reach for you constantly and has suddenly gone still, do not brush that off. We will get into what that reversal really means at the end, and it is something most people wish they had understood before it was too late. Have you ever noticed a very specific moment when your partner seems to close off? Not a fight, not a dramatic event, just a subtle drawing inward that happens right when you expect them to lean toward you? That is not random. It is protective. It is instinctive. In attachment theory, psychologist Amir Levine describes a process called deactivation. It is what happens when a person with an avoidant attachment style, or someone who has been hurt enough times to develop avoidant tendencies, begins switching off their emotional needs as a form of self-protection. Here is what most people in relationships do not realize. When your partner goes quiet, when they stop sharing the small things, when they answer your questions with shorter responses than they used to, they are not being cruel. They are not punishing you. They are managing pain. They are protecting themselves from the sting of vulnerability that has, somewhere along the way, started to feel like a risk rather than a reward. This is also why the behavior can feel so confusing to the person on the receiving end. It does not look like anger. It does not look like hurt. It looks like calm. It looks like distance, and calm distance is very hard to argue with, which makes it even harder to reach through. Your partner is not building a wall to keep you out forever. They are building one to keep themselves intact while they figure out whether it is safe to come back. And that distinction matters more than almost anything else you will hear in this video. Ever wonder why emotional withdrawal shows up in some relationships and not others? Maybe it is the couple who fought loudly every single week but stayed together for 30 years because underneath all that noise, they were still fighting for each other. Maybe it is the partner who never raised their voice, never started a single argument, and then one day left without warning because their silence had never been peace. It had been distance accumulating. Maybe it is the relationship that looked completely stable from the outside but felt hollow on the inside to both people living in it. That pattern is not random. It is rooted deeply in how we each learn to handle the fear of losing love. Esther Perel talks about the difference between erotic spark and domestic stability in long-term relationships. She points out that as relationships settle into routine, partners sometimes stop choosing each other actively and start simply existing alongside each other. The passion does not disappear in a fight. It disappears in the slow erosion of genuine curiosity about who the other person is becoming. Emotional checking out often begins exactly there, in the space where real interest used to live. If your partner used to tell you about their day and now gives you the short version, they are redirecting their inner world somewhere else. If they used to initiate plans and now wait to be asked, they are testing whether you still want to include them. If they used to challenge you or tease you and now let everything pass without a reaction, they are conserving emotional energy they no longer feel safe spending freely. And hey, if this is making you see your relationship differently right now, hit that like button and subscribe. It is the best way to help us reach more people who actually care about understanding what is really happening in their relationships. Now, emotional checking out does not look the same in every relationship. It comes in different forms. Each one is telling you something different about where your partner is emotionally. There are 6 main variations, and the last one is the one most people never see coming. The first is selective silence. This is the most common form. Your partner still talks. They still function in the relationship, but they have stopped sharing the things that actually matter to them. The real thoughts, the private worries, the dreams they use to mention casually. What this reveals is that your partner no longer experiences the relationship as emotionally safe enough for their interior life. They have drawn a line between what they show you and what they actually feel, and that line is getting wider. The second is future faking. Your partner still makes plans with you. They still say things like, "We should do that sometime," or "maybe next year we can go there." But the plans never quite materialize. They stay perpetually in the future tense. What this reveals is that your partner is holding on to the idea of the relationship without being willing to invest in the reality of it. The future is a comfortable place to keep you without having to show up fully in the present. The third is emotional outsourcing. Your partner starts talking to other people about the things they used to bring to you, friends, co-workers, sometimes even strangers on the internet. You find out how they are really feeling through someone else, or not at all. What this reveals is that the emotional intimacy in the relationship has been quietly rerouted. They still need connection. They are just no longer seeking it from you first. The fourth is performative presence. Your partner is physically there. They sit next to you. They respond when spoken to. But you can feel, in a way that is very hard to put into words, that they are not really in the room with you. Their attention is elsewhere. Their energy is elsewhere. They have learned how to occupy the space of the relationship without actually inhabiting it. What this reveals is a kind of emotional autopilot, going through the motions while the real self has already started to withdraw. The fifth is the conflict fade out. Your partner used to argue with you. Now they do not. They agree easily. They let things go. They stop pushing back on the things that used to matter to them. It looks like growth. It looks like maturity. But what it often reveals is that they have stopped believing the relationship is worth the energy of a real disagreement. When people care deeply, they fight. When they start to leave, they go quiet. The sixth sign is the one almost no one sees coming. It is extreme kindness. Your partner becomes unusually warm, unusually considerate, unusually present in a way that feels almost too good. They remember the small things. They do the things you have been asking them to do for months. And instead of feeling relieved, something in you feels uneasy without quite knowing why. What this reveals is that your partner has emotionally arrived at a decision they have not yet said out loud. The kindness is not a return. It is a goodbye being delivered softly. It is the gentleness people show when they know something is ending, and they want to leave without causing damage. This is the sign that tends to blindside people the most, because it looks like love coming back when it is actually love preparing to leave. Have you ever noticed that you start behaving differently around your partner when they are pulling away? You over-explain yourself. You soften your tone even when you are not upset. You stop bringing up certain topics because you have learned without anyone telling you that those topics make the distance worse. You are walking on eggshells that were never officially placed there. That is not a coincidence. It is an emotional shift that the dynamic between the two of you quietly created together. Researchers studying couples in emotional withdrawal cycles found that when one partner begins to disengage, the other partner almost always responds with some version of hypervigilance. They become attuned to small signals. They monitor mood. They adjust their behavior in real time to try to keep the emotional temperature of the relationship stable. Brené Brown's research on vulnerability shows that when people sense emotional withdrawal from someone they love, they often respond by putting on their own emotional armor. They stop being fully themselves too, because being fully themselves started to feel like something that could make things worse. Think about that for a second. Your entire way of showing up in this relationship, the way you speak, the things you say and do not say, how much of yourself you actually reveal, has been quietly reshaped by a pattern you did not even know was running. Ever had a week where something was weighing on you? Maybe doubt about where things were going. Maybe a quiet feeling that something was off, and before you said a single word about it, your partner's behavior shifted. That is not a coincidence. They felt it before you spoke. Partners who have been together long enough develop an emotional radar for each other that operates below the level of conversation. They read microsignals, the change in how long you take to respond to a message, the difference in how close you sit, the way your voice sounds when you are performing fine instead of actually feeling it. Whether eye contact comes easy or whether you are both finding reasons to look somewhere else. And here's where it gets even deeper. When your partner is emotionally checking out, part of what they are responding to is a version of you that you do not even know you are showing. The uncertainty you have not voiced, the disappointment you thought you hid, the part of you that has started to wonder whether this relationship is still what you thought it was. Your partner is not just reacting to the things you say or do. They are reacting to the emotional frequency underneath all of it. And on some level, so are you. You are both reading each other through a language that neither of you has ever had to put into words because you never needed to. Until now. This is what I mentioned earlier, and it is something everyone in a relationship needs to sit with. What does it mean when a partner who has been emotionally absent suddenly reverses? When the distance closes without explanation? When they start showing up in all the ways they had stopped showing up, and it feels both wonderful and somehow unfamiliar? Do not just feel relieved, pay attention, because that reversal is always telling you something, and it is not always the same thing. Sometimes the reason is genuine emotional growth. Your partner has been doing something internal during the withdrawal, processing something they did not have the language for, working through a fear or a wound or a belief about themselves that was making real closeness feel impossible. When the reversal comes from this place, it tends to feel different. It feels slower, more honest. They might not be able to explain exactly what shifted, but there is a groundedness to their return that feels real. Other times, it is need-based. Your partner wants something, forgiveness, reassurance, a sense that the relationship is still there and still stable. The warmth comes back because they are afraid of what the distance is creating, not because they have resolved what caused it. The return feels warm, but also slightly urgent, slightly performance-based. And if the underlying thing that caused the withdrawal does not get addressed, the cycle tends to repeat. And sometimes it is cyclical. It is a pattern of withdrawal and return that has been running in the relationship for a long time, possibly from the very beginning. Gottman's research on what he called the demand-withdraw pattern shows that when one partner pulls away and the other pursues, and then the distant partner returns and the cycle starts over, both people end up chronically off balance. Neither person ever fully trusts the stability of the connection because the pattern itself has become the connection. The closeness only feels real against the backdrop of the distance. What matters most is not which of these three explanations fits your situation. What matters is that you now have the ability to see the pattern clearly. Because that shift in your partner, whether it was silence or surface-level warmth or an absence disguised as busyness, it was never just a habit. It was a conversation your partner was having with you in the only language they knew how to use. And now you understand what they were saying.